A networking event was organized to foster closer relations between companies. At the venue, Daniel, the department head, couldn't believe his eyes when he saw us, a married couple, and blurted out something unbelievable. "There is no seats reserved for you as a subcontractor. Please head home." "Could you call Mr. Thompson right now?" Olivia, my wife, retorted, and Daniel was taken aback, his mouth agape. "What? It's impossible to call the busy Mr. Thompson for a subcontractor. We can find a replacement for you anytime." "So, you're saying we can see Mr. Thompson? Then, we'll take our leave." It was when Olivia took my arm and headed towards the exit. Mr. Thompson, the president of our client company, appeared on the scene, and as he listened to what had happened, his face turned pale, and eventually, he started to tremble. "My name is James. I'm 42, living happily with my beloved wife, Olivia. I run a factory that manufactures mechanical parts, originally owned by my father-in-law. I met Olivia during our college years. Ever since I was a child, I've loved machinery, so I went on to study mechanical engineering in college. With a burning youthful hope in my heart, I was determined to create new things that would shape the future of society. But reality was not as straightforward, and I faced many challenges in my experiments. Despite coming all the way from the countryside, I often faced disappointment and failure, wondering if this was the extent of my abilities. Yet I tirelessly continued with my experiments. Even when I thought it was impossible and faced challenges time and again, feeling utterly lost, it was Olivia who came to stand by my side. She would quickly solve problems I struggled with in my experiments and tell me, "James, you are almost there in solving the issue. The difference between us is whether you believe it can definitely be done." Olivia's smile and those words completely captivated me. The mindset of believing something can be done, rather than giving up thinking it's impossible, changed my approach. Olivia taught me that, and from then on, I never gave up on anything and saw it through to the end. As a result, I developed a strong mentality that even without much evidence or experience, giving my all would somehow make things work out. This resilience, thinking it will surely work out, became a significant strength in overcoming various challenges in life. Olivia herself possessed this vitality. One day, she shared her dream with me quietly. "I have a dream." "Dream?" I asked, unable to anticipate what it was. "To make my father's factory the best in America. That's my dream." Eventually, Olivia and I spent our college life as good friends. After graduation, I took a job at a local machinery manufacturing plant. I was drawn to their commitment to technical research and the pursuit of more precise and advanced technology. There, to my surprise, I reunited with Olivia, my college classmate. It turned out that the factory was managed by her father. Eager to adapt to the work quickly, I was approached by Mr. Parker, Olivia's father and the president of the factory, who had heard of my dedication. "Are you the new guy I've heard so much about? You seem very committed to your work." "Thank you. I'm just thrilled to work with machinery every day." I passionately shared my enthusiasm for manufacturing with Mr. Parker, just as he had asked. Looking back, I realize I must have really laid it on thick, talking about my college major and the potential for the manufacturing industry in America's future. But Mr. Parker listened intently, without interrupting, showing genuine interest in my story. "I'm glad to have a passionate young person like you join our company. Would you like to learn even more?" Following that suggestion, Mr. Parker began to keep me close, guiding me through even the finer details of the work. Thus, I received direct mentorship from Mr. Parker. "James, you don't have a girlfriend, right?" "No, not at the moment." One day, when Mr. Parker suddenly asked me this, Olivia's smiling face from our college days flashed through my mind. How about my Olivia? She's around your age and knows the factory work well. Thus, our relationship, which I thought would remain a friendship for life, slowly progressed, and after about 2 years of dating, we got married. United in our goal to make my father-in-law's factory the best in its field, we enjoyed a happy married life. Then suddenly, my father-in-law became ill. Fortunately, I was nearby and quickly called emergency services, getting him to the hospital. Although he survived, his already weak heart was further strained, and he became much frailer. I've caused you worry, but I've seen my daughter's wedding, and a successor for the factory has been found. Honestly, I have no regrets," he said, lying on the hospital bed, pale-faced. Of course, we couldn't accept that. It's too early to be satisfied, we thought, and the entire factory, starting with Olivia and me, worked hard to manage the business until he could return. As a result, he gradually recovered and was able to return to the factory after 3 months. However, despite his recovery, there was always the fear of him collapsing again. At his urging, while he was still healthy, I officially took over the factory's management. I had been working there and learning from him, especially after he took a liking to me, but it was still quite challenging at first. During that time, I must have looked so worn out when I came home that I worried Olivia. "Are you okay? Don't overdo it. It's tough, but I want to live up to your father's expectations, and I don't want to be underestimated because I'm a young executive. I want to learn as much as I can now." Indeed, after the transition from my father-in-law to me, some difficult clients tried to take advantage of the situation. But thanks to Olivia's support and my father-in-law's trust, I was able to keep going. 2 years flew by, and just as I was getting used to managing the company, Olivia became pregnant. We named our son Jake. Holding Jake, my father-in-law shed tears of joy, a rare sight. Seeing my father-in-law, Olivia, and our newborn son, Jake, together, a family spanning 3 generations, brought a smile to my face. Having a precious son further motivated me. Thanks to that, I became even more dedicated to my work, finding my own way of doing things, different from my father-in-law's, and overcoming various challenges. About 10 years later, I was puzzled to hear that Alex, the manager from our main contractor, had been transferred. It was an odd time for a personnel change, and there had been no indication from Alex, who had been our contact. I was curious about what had happened to Alex, so I asked another acquaintance at the contracting company, and it seems he was dismissed. I was shocked at how significant his mistake must have been, and even more so when I heard that the specific reasons hadn't been disclosed. As a subcontractor, I couldn't learn more, so I awaited the new manager. According to what I've heard, the new manager, named Daniel, is around my age. He's rumored to be an elite graduated from a prestigious university, unlike me, so I braced myself for what would likely be a long-term relationship. Though I was grateful to Alex for his support, I regretted his departure but knew I had to meet the new manager first. I informed the contractor of my intention to greet the new manager soon, which reminded me to inform my father-in-law. "I see. I'll check on it from my end, so focus on the factory work," my father-in-law said with a complex expression I hadn't seen before. This situation changed the next day. While giving instructions and making my rounds in the factory as usual, a man I didn't recognize appeared. Wondering who he could be, the man walked straight up to me. "I'm Daniel, the new department manager. I've taken over this factory's account from my predecessor. Pleased to meet you, Daniel. I look forward to working with you." Daniel, who crossed his arms and looked down at me, received my polite greeting. However, Daniel didn't reply and rudely stared at me. "Did you really think you wouldn't offer me a cup of coffee after I came all this way? My apologies," I wasn't thoughtful enough. Feeling his cold gaze, I hurriedly prepared some coffee. From past experience, I knew it was best to appease such people. They'd be satisfied and leave without causing trouble. After receiving the coffee, Daniel seemed to cheer up as expected. He leaned back, sipping his coffee with a satisfied look, eyeing me unpleasantly. "You seem to understand your place." Unlike Alex, who always greeted us with a warm smile, saying, "Thank you always," Daniel, by contrast, crossed his arms and surveyed the factory with a critical eye. Just when I felt this wasn't going to be straightforward, I became anxious. "How are you doing?" Olivia arrived with Jake, stopping in her tracks as if taken by surprise. I remembered she mentioned she'd bring Jake by today. As I recalled this, Daniel unexpectedly recognized her. "Wait, you're Olivia." "Daniel, is that you?" Both were clearly surprised to see each other. It turned out they knew each other, but Daniel continued, still in disbelief. "Is that your son? Did you marry some low-level worker because you're the factory's daughter?" "Yes, but what's that to do with you? Who I marry is none of your business, right, Daniel?" Olivia effortlessly dodged Daniel's sudden harsh words. Then, she stood beside me, frozen in place, with Jake by her side. "This is my husband. He's someone important who helps lift this factory up." Jake innocently showed me his elementary school quiz. While I praised Jake with a smile, I was taken aback by Daniel's reaction. For a moment, he seemed to give me a piercing look. But he quickly reverted to a smug expression and began to mock Olivia openly. "So you married a bottom-rung worker for your family's sake, regretting your life choices." Daniel's condescending tone was directed at both Olivia and me. I was quite irritated inside, but with young Jake watching, I tried hard to keep my composure. Then, Olivia smiled brightly. I couldn't be happier to have married him. Her smile dissolved my frustration, filling me with joy. "What a waste of time," Daniel muttered, clicking his tongue and leaving the factory. "What a piece of work. Really, he's just as unpleasant as ever." She explained that Daniel was a classmate from her high school days. Seeing her reluctant face, I decided not to press further. But now, with such a troublesome person as our point of contact, I was worried. However, I soon forgot about my dissatisfaction with Daniel when I was informed that a major project was underway. After all, the products shipped from our factory were to play a crucial role, and I was fully focused on that. But just when I was focused on that, Daniel contacted me again. Expecting a project update, I nervously picked up the phone, only to be met with an incomprehensible complaint. "What was with your attitude last time? I didn't expect such disrespectful treatment when I, the manager, personally visited. I'm very sorry for any discomfort caused." I apologized, though Daniel continued to rant. "Remember this, I have a promising future. Unlike a subcontractor like you, I could end our business with just one word." After venting, Daniel hung up. I was stunned that Daniel had called just to say that, when another employee called. Apparently, a networking event was being organized to ensure the success of the major project, involving all related companies. This employee had been contacting each company, but upon seeing Daniel's call to us, they hurriedly reached out to confirm. Due to Daniel's neglect to pass on this crucial information, I would have missed the event if not for this call. I expressed my gratitude to the employee and confirmed my schedule. My schedule was just barely open, but the thought of encountering Daniel at the networking event made me sigh involuntarily. On the day of the event, I arrived at the venue early, just to be safe. It was just me and my wife, Olivia, scanning the crowd for any familiar faces. Amidst the sparse early arrivals, I heard a familiar voice from behind. White is a bottom-rung worker from a poor factory here. It was Daniel who had spotted me and decided to speak up. Just as I thought I'd been tangled up with a troublesome person, ignoring him wasn't an option. Daniel looked us over with disdain, laughing mockingly. "Why are you even here? Don't you see you're out of place? Today's gathering is for executives of reputable companies, not for subcontractors like you." His loud laughter drew the attention of those around us, making us the center of attention. I tried to escape the situation with a polite smile and a greeting to Daniel. "Excuse me, I need to go greet others." "I'm not done talking to you." I attempted to sidestep Daniel, but he seemed determined not to let us go. As I worried about what to do, Daniel approached with a smug laugh, looking down on me. "You don't have a seat here. You as a subcontractor, please leave." "Then, can you call Mr. Thompson right now?" Olivia's quick retort left Daniel wide-eyed and speechless. "What? There's no way I can call busy Mr. Thompson just for subcontractors. There are plenty of replacements for you. So, you can't call Mr. Thompson. Then we'll have to withdraw from the project." With that, Olivia took my arm and we headed for the exit. Daniel, looking smug as if he had successfully sent us packing, made no move to stop us. That's when it happened. "James," it was Mr. Thompson, calling out with a puzzled look. "He's the president of the client company." I stopped to greet Mr. Thompson. "Mr. Thompson, you've arrived early. I heard you were coming, so I thought I'd come and catch up with him." By him, he probably meant my father-in-law. I knew my father-in-law and Mr. Thompson had been acquainted for over 30 years since establishing their companies, but I had heard that their meetings had become rare since my father-in-law's health declined and I took over. "Why are you leaving? The networking event is just about to start." "Well, actually, I explained everything to Mr. Thompson, though I doubted it would make a difference. I wasn't close to Mr. Thompson, just another subcontractor." Even if he dismissed my words with a scoff, I couldn't blame him. But I had hoped for something from the long-standing friendship between Mr. Thompson and my father-in-law. Mr. Thompson's face turned pale as he listened, and he began to tremble. "I'm so sorry. This is entirely Daniel's fault. I'll make sure he's properly dealt with, so please don't leave." Mr. Thompson's desperate attempt to keep us there surprised not only us. "What are you saying to these subcontractors, Mr. Thompson? They are just lowly, poor subcontractors with no manners towards their clients." "What are you talking about? Haven't you read the documents for this project?" Mr. Thompson immediately scolded Daniel, who had approached with a smug laugh. Daniel must have never anticipated being scolded himself. Leaving a stunned Daniel with his mouth agape, Mr. Thompson clung to my hand. "I'll let you do as you wish, and I won't hold you responsible. Please, participate in the project. Then I'll do as I see fit." I waited for Mr. Thompson's firm nod. "What about the networking event? I'll be leaving for today. I need to reconsider our strategy moving forward." Mr. Thompson looked down, clearly disappointed. "I'm truly sorry for this incident." After returning Mr. Thompson's apology, we finally left the venue. As we were leaving, Mr. Thompson handed me a small note. On it was written the name and phone number of the former manager, Alex. I planned to call this number as soon as I got home. Of course, I also had to report this incident to my father-in-law. As we quickened our pace, the sound of Daniel being sternly reprimanded echoed behind us. The next day, Daniel stormed into my factory, red-faced. "Hey, bring James out. I need an explanation for this," he bellowed as soon as he entered the factory. Receiving the call, I met Daniel in the reception room, where his anger was evident, his clenched jaw trembling. "What do you mean your factory's parts are essential for the project? I believe the details are outlined in the documents provided beforehand. You dismissed us from the project after deciding we were unnecessary, didn't you? Perhaps surprised by my sudden retort, having never counted him before, Daniel fell silent. That he could be rendered speechless by just a single comeback suggested he was more sensitive to criticism than I had imagined. If that's all, may I ask you to leave? I said, pointing towards the exit, but Daniel weakly shook his head. I was told by Mr. Thompson, are you really not participating in the project? You know, Mr. Thompson and your predecessor were close, right? Think it over. After discussing with the previous president, we decided to terminate this contract. We're just replaceable subcontractors, right? Daniel turned pale, sweating profusely, clearly panicked. I knew why he was so desperate. Without our factory, the project couldn't proceed. In fact, the project hinged on a product for which I held a patent. Taking a different management approach from my father-in-law, I focused on securing patents. In addition to managing the factory daily, I had been working on prototypes of a product I researched since my college days. With the help of Olivia, who had studied with me at the same university, we finally succeeded in developing it after 2 years. Our patented product, unique to our factory, contributed significantly to our profits and improved our financial situation. The project came about because of our product's reputation. Without it, the entire project would fall through. Despite being a project participant, Daniel was unaware of these circumstances. He probably skimmed the documents, assuming our work was simple because we were subcontractors. Do you have no sense of responsibility? What will you do if the project fails? If that happens, I suppose I'd have to take responsibility. But don't worry, we've already signed with another company. At my words, Daniel gasped for air, wide-eyed. I almost laughed at his expression. On the day of the networking event, I had called Alex using the number Mr. Thompson gave me. I learned that Alex had started a new company with Mr. Thompson's support. Mr. Thompson is supporting us. Would you consider contracting with us? Alex, seeking a contract, shared what had happened when he left his previous company. According to the story, Alex attempted to report the harassment he received from Daniel to the company's upper management. However, a faction within the company, favoring Daniel and led by Vice President Michael, seemed to have suppressed Alex's complaints. Fearing he might collapse under the strain, Alex decided to resign. When he submitted his resignation, Mr. Thompson approached him, leading to the establishment of a new company as a subsidiary. Mr. Thompson, too, was fed up with the schemes of Daniel's backers within the company. Despite Mr. Thompson's efforts, the influence of these factions reached the company's core, making it challenging to restructure the management. Hence, Mr. Thompson was gradually transferring skilled employees to the subsidiary company centered around Alex. In light of the current situation, Mr. Thompson introduced my factory, crucial for the project, to Alex's company. I was set to contract with Alex's new company. Explaining this to Daniel only fueled his anger. What a joke. If this project fails, we're looking at losses in the millions. Just sign back with us right now. But it was you, Daniel, who initially said we were unnecessary. We've already signed a contract and are participating in the project with a new company, so recontracting with you is impossible. I firmly refused Daniel's repeated pleas. After about 30 minutes of back and forth, Daniel finally seemed to realize the futility of his efforts and slumped to his knees. After watching Daniel trudge away with slumped shoulders, we returned to our regular work as usual. Months later, Mr. Thompson visited the factory. He had been working to restructure the company and counteract a faction led by Michael and Daniel. I've caused you so much trouble. I don't know how to apologize. After apologizing, Mr. Thompson shared more details. Daniel, once seen as competent, started behaving recklessly after gaining Michael's favor. Even before our conflict, Daniel had caused similar issues in various departments. However, due to Michael's strong connections, no one dared to confront him. As a result, Daniel developed a misplaced confidence, believing he could do whatever he wanted because he was important. This led to the unnecessary trouble he caused at the networking event, targeting us, the subcontractors he disliked. Even after being reprimanded by Mr. Thompson, Daniel showed no signs of remorse. "I was just doing my job. There are plenty of factories out there, so it doesn't matter how they are treated," Daniel retorted, angering the usually calm Mr. Thompson, resulting in his transfer. During my long business trip, Daniel was promoted to manager. I had seen the reports, but I judged solely on performance, missing his character, causing this inconvenience. Mr. Thompson explained, apologizing again. Later, we heard from an acquaintance that Daniel had resigned. After Michael was forced to resign for his actions, Daniel avoided dismissal but became the target of derision within the company. Furthermore, although he wasn't fired, Daniel was transferred to a department tasked with compiling the company's history all day, a position with no real sense of purpose. Feeling frustrated in such an unfulfilling role, Daniel eventually resigned on his own accord. Though he had a difficult personality, he was intelligent. Hearing the story, Olivia remarked that Daniel indeed had capabilities. He had achieved enough to be recognized as a manager by Mr. Thompson, at least on paper. However, his promotion led him to become overconfident, resulting in his reckless behavior this time. Maybe I provoked his behavior. Apparently, Daniel had feelings for Olivia back in high school. However, his attempts to get her attention by belittling her father's factory only made Olivia despise him. I told him, "Don't ever speak to me again. I don't even want you near me," Olivia recounted. After that declaration, there was no contact from Daniel post-high school. Yet, upon entering the workforce and learning his company dealt with Olivia's factory, and now armed with the title of manager, Daniel sought to reconnect, perhaps with renewed confidence. But by then, Olivia was already married to me, with a child in elementary school, which likely didn't match his expectations. The fact that he harassed you out of jealousy is just so immature. I'm really sorry for any trouble this caused you, Olivia apologized, though I harbored no anger. Instead, I admired her firm stance and felt reassured that together, we could face any challenges at the factory. After resigning, Daniel struggled to find new employment as word of the incident spread, leading to repeated rejections. With his savings depleted and forced out of his home, Daniel fell into poverty, resorting to debt and day labor to get by. Despite juggling multiple jobs, working under supervisors younger than himself seemed to hurt his pride. As a result, he hasn't been able to stick with any job for long, leading to frequent job changes. Now, he spends his days drinking cheap liquor as soon as he gets a bit of money, facing complaints even from his neighbors in a cheap apartment. His days of wandering might be near. On the other hand, I am still working collaboratively with my factory team as an executive. Our relationship with the new company led by Alex is flourishing, and we are engaged in eager and fulfilling transactions. Mr. Thompson's company is gradually recovering, becoming a healthy enterprise once again. I look forward to the day when we can resume our business dealings, a sentiment shared with my father-in-law. As Jake became more independent, entering middle school, Olivia found more time to assist with factory work. I am determined to continue putting forth my best effort for my family and our valued factory. I believe that if we face any new challenges in the future, we can overcome them together as a team. Someday, we'll fulfill Olivia's dream of making our factory the best in its field. With this hope in my heart, I step into the factory again today, believing that if we tackle our tasks with the conviction that we can achieve them, we will surely succeed.